Okay, all right. Okay, so here we are. We do an online session of Aikido San Jose on Fridays at noon. So let me just check. Somebody else jumped in. So,
Hi, Sensei.
oh, hi, Cliff. Okay. Now, what I need to do is I need to spotlight. Okay, so here we are. Server recording, and let's see, Eric, you don't have to say anything, but if you want to introduce yourself, I think this might be the first class you've ever attended, so feel free. Okay.
Hello, everyone.
What's your background? Are you new to Aikido, or
No, I'm taking this class at San Jose State, so.
Oh, San Jose State. Okay, I didn't recognize you. Oh, yeah, okay. So what we're going to do, because I opened it up to San Jose State students, they're going to do a midterm. And we're going to go through the second midterm. There's this second set of 10 movements and the 30 movement set. So we'll be doing that in just a little bit. I thought I'd do a little bit. We haven't done this in a while. One of the things I did, I started Aikido at UC Santa Cruz my last year as an undergraduate. And my instructor there was Robert Frazier Sensei. And he was a psychology professor at Merrill College. And he started an Aikido club. He's still with us, thank goodness. You know, he was a direct student of Morihei Ueshiba, whom we call O-sensei, his title, great teacher, whatever. And so, you know, he taught the Aikido club. I started in the fall, 1969. Roll the calendar over, okay, second quarter system at UC Santa Cruz. Frazier Sensei taught a course called The Psychology of Far Eastern Religion, which I took. And I told him once, I said, you know, that was the most important course I took, either as an undergraduate or a graduate, was that course. And we studied Sufism, Zen, yoga, a couple others, all right? But one of the books on there was a book called The Teachings of Don Juan, a Yaqui Way of Knowledge by a man named Carlos Castaneda, who at that time was a grad student in anthropology at UCLA. And he wrote a series of books about his apprenticeship, his journey studying sorcery, shamanism. It's kind of unclear whether or not the whole thing was just a composite, whether the Don Juan character was really Don Juan or something that he got from a variety of different teachers. And so, you know, that was, for me, a very important book. And he wrote a bunch of other books that was a continuation of the study. The first couple, actually, the Teachings of Don Juan was very big in the late 60s because it went into drug experiences. In other words, the use of things like peyote, Jimson weed, to alter consciousness, okay? And that was when psychedelics were very big, okay? So the book itself was published by the University of California Press. It didn't, you know, and all of a sudden it attracted interest, got a major publisher, and kind of sort of took off. I don't know how topical Mr. Castaneda is now. He's since deceased, but he's very influential to me. And it was part of that course that Robert Frazier Sensei taught. And so This is a composite of various things that he put together, just of his books. So instead of going back and rereading the books, I just kind of read sections of this. It's called The Wheel of Time. I thought we'd start out with a couple of things, okay? And then we'll get to the staff movement. We used to do this a lot in the early days when we were doing our broadcasts, and that was when the pandemic hit. And now we're open doing in-person classes, but we still keep this because it, sometimes I wonder, how much I actually learned when I was in Japan, training 6 or 7 days a week. I learned more when the instructors would come over and we would chat. Sometimes we demonstrate moves. Other than that, I don't know. So the Friday classes are a little bit more along those lines. Okay, then we record them. So if you don't want to be on the recording, you don't have to be. Okay, you don't have to say anything. Okay, and we're going to get to the staff work, but I want to cover some of this first. Okay, and one of the terms that Don Juan used is being a warrior. Okay, now I'm not talking about somebody who's a fighter or a basketball player locally. Okay, but a warrior is a way of being that one adapts on the path of knowledge, which has its ups and downs, its light and dark. It has an incredible panorama of different things, and it can also be very scary. Okay, and so adopting the warrior path to learning shamanism is really what the books are about. The first couple of books went into drug experiences, okay? But I was more fascinated by the experiences and less like the drug activity, okay? And then after about the third book, Journey to Ixtlan, they didn't do the drugs anymore. They were strictly how to hone yourself on the path of being a warrior. Okay, now Ueshiba Osensei was in a very different lineage, so to speak. He kind of came out, but he also came out of the shamanic tradition because one of his major teachers was Deguchi Onisaburo, who founded kind of his own sect of the Shinto religion. And the thing about Shinto, a lot of times it's shrines and it's ritual. But if you kind of get deeper into it, it really is about the forces of the universe and has a shamanic sense. Okay? So I thought I'd read a couple of excerpts from this, and then we'll have a little discussion, and then we'll get to the staff movements. Okay? So, the spirit of a warrior is not geared to indulging and complaining, nor is it geared to winning or losing. The spirit of a warrior is geared only to struggle, and every struggle is a warrior's last battle on earth. Thus, the outcome matters very little to him or her, okay? In his last battle on earth, a warrior lets his spirit flow free and clear. And as he wages his battle, knowing that his intent is impeccable, a warrior laughs and laughs. And one of the things there, the whole thing kind of cross-indexes. The term that was used a lot when I was training in Japan, the Shingu Dojo, was Shinken Shobu. Shinken, live blade. In other words, when you're in a match to the death or on the battlefield, obviously you don't want to die. But if you panic, you are going to die. Okay, so there's a sense of honing your spirit. And the training, as we were presented to us, even though it was Aikido training, was ideally Shinken. There were no live blades. We didn't attack each other with sharp swords or anything like that, but that intensity. And that intensity kind of supported by a calm focus. You're quiet, but you're right on point. And so, in that particular thing, spirit flows freely. Your spirit can't be this tense, nor can it be sloppy and all over the place. It has to be focused, calm, expansive. Boom. And so, when he's talking about being a warrior, he's not talking about a fighter. You're on the path of knowledge or self-realization or internal development. And there's one other thing. Okay, we're going to try to get through this. I should have brought my reading glasses, but I didn't, so we'll struggle through it. We talk to ourselves incessantly about our world. In fact, we maintain our world with our internal talk. And whenever we finish talking to ourselves about ourselves and our world, the world is always as it should be. We renew it, we rekindle it with life, we uphold it with our internal talk. Not only that, but we also choose our paths as we talk to ourselves. Thus, we repeat the same choices over and over until the day we die, because we keep on repeating the same internal talk over and over until the day we die. A warrior is aware of this and strives to stop his or her internal talk. So things, for example, like meditation, an alternative to letting the dialogue that's going 24/7, stepping out of it. Things like centering, even learning the movements to do an Aikido. It has to quiet down a bit. And then things come into focus, but the focus is calm. Okay. Before we go on to do the staff movements, Cliff, anything you want to add, or I don't know if you're familiar with that stuff, or?
Well, I mean, you've talked a lot about Carlos Castaneda. I read the first book back in the day when I was in high school. I mean, it had been out for a while at that point, but I was in high school. And it was actually one of the first ethnographies I've read, because it had like that whole academic appendix at the back where he like lays out the structure of like the Yaqui way of knowledge that he allegedly got from an alleged informant who may or may not have, right, Don Juan, who may or may not have existed. And I remember liking it. I do think that the quiet alertness is a characteristic that his idea of a warrior, it jibes with the Japanese samurai culture, right? The idea of it's a very Zen state. So, you try and do that, right? Because you want to be able to respond in an effective and clear-headed way to a stressor. And that can be, somebody coming at you with a sword, but that seems very unlikely in the modern world. So it can be a situation of physical violence, or it can be, just an unexpected turn of events that could tend to blindside you, right? And to try and, you may not have the perfect solution, but you might have a quick solution that is not terrible, right? And act on that. And that's generally speaking better than doing nothing in unusual situations. In my own life, the kinds of things that blindside me on a daily basis are just like whatever crazy mischief my kids have gotten into, right?
Mhm.
So, you respond. Obviously, I don't pull out my bokken and chase my kids around the house, but I do try to have that calm and that centered feeling, and to hear what they're telling me and to see what is the issue, and try and deal with whatever the problem is in a clear-headed and calm way.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And so that's, kids are, you love them, but they're little chaos engines. And
Yeah.
so they require calmness from the adults who take care of them. And so this kind of training helps with that. That's my thought.
Yeah, you're basically, the whole thing about warriorship is very broad, but a warrior's approach to children, right? Or
Right. Obviously you're a protector, but you're also, you have to deal with the chaos in a calm way.
Yeah. Well, what happens usually, the chaos starts the internal dialogue to kind of go out of control. And so one of the things about what you're saying, and also what was in the quote, was in some sense, but the term "the last battle on earth" just means that everything that we do is a potential battle. Now, your battle's not with your kids, it's just with the chaos, right? But in that last battle, we're easy, we're open, we're settled, ideally. And there'll be another last battle. But in the moment, we're in our last battle. And what happens is, to some degree, that last section in the book that you cited, the first book, when I was in grad school, I used to hang out with Professor Charles Tart, who was, somewhat associated with Robert Fraser. So I started with Robert Fraser at UC Santa Cruz. I went over to UC Davis. I was in a master's program there. And Professor Tart, or Charlie, I used to call him Charlie because I wasn't a student, started an Aikido club. And so we got to where we would talk a lot about these things, because I was really interested in the Castaneda stuff, and there was grad school, and the grad school was grad school. It was kind of like my last battle, But what happened is he cited that book, and I said, the first part of it, even though it was about drug experience, it was really very vivid and talking about an alternate view, a separate reality, if you will, that was the shaman's world that existed alongside our ordinary world. And I cited that last section And what Charlie told me is, yeah, that's just stuff you wrote to get a PhD. Don't pay any attention to it. Because I remember looking at it thinking, too much structure. Right. And one of the things about the Don Juan books is part of being a warrior is that, you oftentimes attract things. I mean, it's not just that it's chaotic, but you attract energies. And situations. So in that way, we're saying it's the last battle on earth. It's like, easy. And really what the warrior does, I mean, it's not, if you're a basketball player, you obviously want to win the game, okay? But on the other hand, it's not about winning or losing. This is part of the first quote. It really is about, to some degree, the word that was used was your impeccability, your ability to be focused, present, and to some degree, even creative in your last battle. And you go from last battle to last battle to last battle to last battle. Okay? I mean, for example, we're going to do the staff movements. That's a battle. Nobody did that yesterday. I learned it yesterday. No, today. We're going to pick it up again. It's another battle. And again, the dialogue that I used to understand movements yesterday will limit me today. So with that in mind, Yarrow, anything you want to add before we?
Not much. Just I second what was talked about with the kids before. Yeah, I'm having some things going on with my son, and I found that working on myself and my centering does a lot more than anything that I actually say.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I know things like centering. Found out actually that Castaneda had a really good opinion on Aikido. So, in fact, my partner Elle, she met somebody who had talked to Castaneda, and Castaneda told that person, do Aikido. And so, of course, she passed it on to Elle. So Elle started Aikido. Anyway, so I'm going to clear some space. Yeah, I use sort of a shorter one inside, okay? All right. And make sure that the time is visible here, okay? Now I'm doing a little freer movements, but we're going to start with, we're going to go through the first 10, okay? And then we're going to go through the second set of 10. And then, we're going to go through a little bit, what I call just a more improv. Some of the movements I'm doing right now. Okay. But we'll start with, and I'll do it from several angles, the first set of 10. Movement number 1, right hand, left hand. Movement 2, leftward up. Rightward up. Leftward down. Okay, go with that again. 1. Rightward, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to change angles because camera, this would be straight, but I'm a little bit of an angle here. This is movement 5, kind of a ready position. Very important on this one. Too tight, too loose. And the grip from the top. You're dribbling a basketball. Want to control the ball. If you're too tense, you're going to kick the ball off your feet. If you're too loose, you're going to lose the ball. Okay. 6, full extension of the arm, follow through. 7 is both up and down. 8, repeat 6. 9, right hand up, left hand down. Trick feet, right foot up, left foot back. A cutting or striking motion. 10, over the head. Okay. And again, I repeat this a lot because it's important. Body changes. It's kind of like we call the closed door position. I take a step, forming a triangle, point base. Now, I'm feet are triangular, but the body's still kind of in that closed door position. So I'm now in a semi-open door position. 5. Now, when I go 6, I'm in an almost fully open door position. And in that change, difficult to do with the feet this way. So we stand in a triangle. Full extension, focus. Okay. So repeat from a slightly different angle with the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is both up and down. 8 would be 6, 9, right hand up, right foot up. Left hand down, left foot back. This is cover your head, striking motion or cutting motion if that's a spirit. And then back to here. Okay. Now the movement number 9 starts with the closed door position. Goes to the almost fully open door position. Same thing on the other side. If you go this way, you're covering yourself right here. And part of covering yourself is your body change right there. So that's movements number 1 through 10. Let's go through it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's both up and down. 8, 9, and 10. Okay, right? Okay. Good. Just anyway, just we're going to go into the second set of 10 now. But before we do, Cliff, anything you want to add on that? Try to break it down. Anything?
I'm just noticing actually how far back for movements 9 and 10, how far back you raise the staff, which I really wasn't focusing on before. So
yeah, you're covering your head when you're doing it. It's just kind of like this, but people go like this. You're kind of face guarding, you know what I mean?
sure.
In some sense, what you're doing is you're giving a target, but you're off the line. Giving a target off the line. You're conscious of the opening would be to the body. The head itself is protected. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I fully raise. Okay. Anything else, Yarrow? Anything you might have noticed or any questions?
No.
Okay. And Eric, we've covered that in class. That's a review of, by the way, for the midterm, we'll be doing that as well as
Yeah,
the second.
got it.
Yeah. So if somebody misses the first, they can make it up. The first midterm was missed, they can make it up on the second midterm. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now we go into movement number 10. Now, first change, thumbs face away from you. Second change, thumbs face each other. Third change, thumbs face you. The fourth change is more something in the body, but it's the first change position. Okay. And so I'm going to do this at a sliding angle. Left hand, thumb towards your second change position, turn, cover face, and head. 12, step, thrust. 13, up and down, it's a striking motion. 14, hand change, right hand. Both thumbs are now facing you back. 15, forward. Now, for 16, we go back to the second change position. Grip of the right hand for the first change position. Step, right foot, turn, pivot, cutter, strike. That's 16. 17, settle your weight under. 18, thumbs face, back. 19, forward. 20, step back. Okay? So we go from the first change, hands, to second, third, and fourth. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my ankle. So go from here. 11. So here, cover both your head and your face. You can go lower, but you don't want to be too high here or to the side. 12. Thrust in the second hand change position. 13. 14. Now we're in the third change position, back. 15. Okay, now, right hand releases, second change position, thumbs face. Let go of the left, catch with the left, first change position, step, turn, cutter, strike. That's 16. 17, weight settles under, back to the second change position, 18, 19, and 20. Okay. So that's the, we're going to go over that a couple more times, but any questions? Cliff, any questions on the second set? Or you may have noticed something?
Just I was noticing the exact, like how far up and down the length of the staff you were at any given moment. I was focusing on that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
where exactly you were gripping the weapon.
Yeah, okay. One of the hardest things is that, we learn, we create a dialogue. Now, what's kind of interesting is one of the dialogues is, I don't understand it. Okay. And on the other hand, another dialogue is, oh, I understand it. But one thing that is important is that you're looking at changing your dialogue, ideally on a day today basis. Because your dialogue supports your understanding of it. And then after a while, there's certain basics that are kind of the term that's used in Japanese culture. It's in the body. In other words, it's not a dialogue here anymore. It's in body feel. Not something I'm looking for out there or trying to figure out with words, but okay. So we'll go through that second set of 10 again, okay? All right. What I do want to also cover is that we go through the body changes. When you triangulate the feet, without the knee turning. Now, for example, we go from 11. The hand position is second change position, but we're still triangulating the body. We're kind of going from semi-open door to almost fully open door. Likewise, here, I go to the closed door position, then I go to the semi-open door, almost fully open door position. And going from fully open door position to semi-open door position to almost fully open door position. Okay, so those are the changes we learned in the body. More poetically, full moon, half moon. Now this is quarter moon going to no moon. So it's a bit more poetic. May help you, may not. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're just going to review from movement number 1 all through movement number 20. Okay. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, both up and down, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to change the direction again. This time I'm going to do it facing this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Okay. So again, when we do the midterm on Wednesday, we will go through the movements from 1 through 10 and then 10 through 20 as a group. We test individually, but we form a circle and everybody will repeat the pattern. Okay. Let's see. Now, what I thought we'd do, like, what I'm doing right here, for example, it's just All right, so again, let's just I'll demonstrate a little bit. The last set of 10, we go into double figure 8 motion. Now we go into what I call the fire water changes. That motion. So the whole thing is meant to kind of look something like this. Okay. And what I thought we'd do is just, Eric, I would recommend that you just watch or whatever, because this is going to confuse you. We'll go through that after the second midterm, because that's the third midterm. But what I'm going to do a little bit is, for example, here, that motion, 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 that motion. Now they're all based upon the movements of the last set of 10, movements 21 through 30. But one of the things, for example, that motion. Well, third change, hands. Boom, 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 but boom. Movements can go away. It's kind of freer. Now that was, for example, figure 8, one-handed. Right? Now we also go into, as I said, the two-handed figure 8 movements. Two-handed figure 8 movements. Yeah, what we call the fire water changes. Thumb down, thumb up, thumb down, thumb up. Thumb up, thumb down, thumb up, thumb down, thumb up, thumb down. Now off of that. Boom, 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 boom. I'm doing right there. It's just two-handed figure 8 going into the fire water changes. Okay. I like to imagine I'm holding a spear. Now here, for example, when I'm doing these movements, there's a long end and a short end. So for me, the long end is always the spear tip. So that's what, see, if it's just a stick, that's a striking motion, but that's a cutting motion. If it's just a stick, boom, that's a striking motion. This is a piercing motion. Okay, so it changes the dynamic of it. Now what I'm doing here, just one-handed figure 8, two-handed figure 8, two-handed figure 8, two-handed figure 8. Okay, now if I reverse hands, two-handed figure 8 the other way. Right. These are just changes. So a bit more free form. Boom. Boom. Okay. So if you're holding a stick, the long end, I'm here. If that's sharp, I don't even know what's sharp end. But if it's the long end, and likewise here, that's serious, there's something sharp or pointed there, so we learn to move our body. Erase it. So that's just a little bit of recall. Your freestyle. Now, one thing about, for example, here, let's see, one-handed figure eight. The two-handed figure eight involves and educates the movement of your hips. One-handed figure eight, just the arms as possible. Two-hand, boom, boom, hip turn, hip turn, hip turn, hip turn, hip turn. Fire water change, fire water change, fire water change. As your movement, somebody's coming behind you. I'm a basketball junkie. I do things like this. Now you can't do this with a skirt or hakama. But what this does do, for example, is like base, base. You wouldn't do this on the battlefield, you know, between the legs, but it's like a basketball. And what this does do, boom, ground, change, 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 ground. And you know, initially I go like this, I go myself, body view. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. Behind the back, boom, figure eight. Okay. So Eric, if you're still with us, don't worry about that stuff, okay? But Cliff, anything you might want to add on that?
Just, you know, how essential the hip movement is to the double-handed figure eight, especially.
Well, if your hands are too tense, you can't do it. Just, you know, it's kind of like you're putting yourself in. So boom, boom, boom. See the hips. You can get by without just doing the movements one-hand figure eight, but the two-hand figure eight motion. Boom, 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 boom. And you see, and each point here, boom, boom, boom. Try not to hit the screen here, but you know, boom, 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 boom. Anyway, Yarrow, anything you might want to add?
It's been a while since I let myself play with this a little more.
Yeah.
And I really like just moving the hips and trying to forget about the arms, almost like they're cables. And just, yes, it slows me down a little bit. But it's weird. It's almost out of body feeling. You can see it moving, but it's not, it doesn't feel like my arms are doing it. It just feels like it's moving by itself.
Well, the point of it, okay, just. There's a motion. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. This is where, you know, for example, we started with the Carlos Castaneda stuff. And Ueshiba was, I mean, there's the Japanese culture is just a little bit more shamanic. Most cultures, when, you know, the folk cultures are more based on nature. And so most cultures have a shamanic influence. Native American culture, very shamanic. Okay? Okay, so for me, when something moves, before that move, something moved. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. Something moves, something moves. I move, something moves. something moves, something moves. And you know, if you're more of a Zen person, you quiet the mind, get clearer, the movement gets clearer. A little bit more boom, 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 boom. And Washiba might have said, spirit moves, spirit moves, spirit moves. Okay. And you can call it, say, key moves first. So most of us kind of learn, for example, the 30 movements start as a form, and they pretty much remain as a form. As you learn the movements a little better, you have the tools to do more than just the form. You create other forms off of those forms. But for me, there's movement. There's movement. There's movement. Something moves. Okay. And story I like to tell a little bit is I started in the fall of '69 with Robert Fraser Sensei. And all the way in the spring, I did the winter and the spring. And in the spring, one of the major teachers from Japan, Koichi Tohei Sensei, 10th degree black belt, chief instructor of Aikido, you know, of the main school in Tokyo at that time. And then he was also chief instructor of the whatever was going on in California and Hawaii. So he was pretty major. And so a group of us, we weren't too confident, so we didn't put our gis on. We just went and watched. And Tohei Sensei was very impressive. It's like his legs were like pillars, and people attack him and they go flying. And so we were talking about him after the class, and then Robert Fraser Sensei, you know, came by and he listened for a little bit, and he said, "Oh, you're all kind of confusing Tohei Sensei with O Sensei." And so Tohei Sensei's ki was very powerful. His energy, vital force was very powerful. And I said, yeah, I mean, isn't that what O Sensei was like? And Robert Fraser Sensei said something very cryptic. He said, no. And we said, well, what's the difference between Tohei Sensei and O Sensei? And Robert Fraser Sensei said something like, Tohei Sensei is too strong to be O Sensei. And of course, that kind of went, what are you going to do with that? Because, you know, his ki was very powerful. So you figure, well, Sensei must have been, you know. And so, you know, Robert Fraser leaves. And so we have a discussion. And this one guy in the class, he just said, oh, maybe it's this. Tohei Sensei, mind over body. Because he taught a lot about energy, ki, lead the mind. Mind over body. And then what this guy said next is very interesting. Maybe O Sensei was what he called soul over mind. So instead of mind leading the body, there was something that moved or guided or instructed the mind, so then the body would move. And, you know, my own particular parlance for that is spirit. Spirit moves. Spirit moves. Mind then leads the body. So that's kind of my particular thing with it. So when I do more of what I would call the improv, fancier term, but since they called it takemusu, martial generating, martial creating, he was talking about something called spirit. And in spirit, of course, is spirit. But then, we have a right, we have a left, okay? So, in the Shinto panthology, we have Amaterasu, a sun goddess, and Susanoo, the storm god. There's yin yang, or Izanagi, archetypal male, Izanami, archetypal female. Spirit moves yin to yang, yang to yin, or fire to water, water to fire. So that's kind of a very simplistic way, but with Osensei, it's like not just his mind would, was so powerful that he had this powerful key. For Osensei, it was like, yeah, but he was on a different level. And so, a lot of what I try to do with this is just without destroying my iPad. It's just, there's motion. There's motion. Now it starts, we learn the movements with the form. And then we learn the different changes. And the body changes. Okay. And then after a while, all right, when I was the main teacher at the dojo that I trained at, Hiki Tsuchi Sensei, was also awarded, along with Toya Sensei, the Judan, or the 10th degree black belt. He toured California in May of 1974. And my parents insisted, because they thought he looked after me and put me up and everything. They said, well, he's going to stay with us. So he stayed at my parents' house for that whole month. And one day, he came out. It was kind of a mysterious day. And he said, get your staff. And I got my staff. And he said, and it was very cryptic. He just said that he used the term, kami can be translated as spirit. That the kami had instructed him to initiate me into the movement of the staff or the spear. And so he got up and he kind of did this part, and he did some sound work with it. And then he kind of did certain movements. And then he said, okay, I opened it up for you, stand in it. So I'm kind of there, kind of don't know what to do. And so he just said, move. And I don't know what to do. So I go out there and do a couple of basically half-assed things. I couldn't copy what he was doing at that time. And he said, good, it's done. And I said, what? But, he said, well, I basically, he said, I opened the gateway for you. You stood in it. It's passed on. And so what happened is he left, went back to Japan after a month. And I would go out there to that place that he kind of did the ceremony, and I would stand there, and the staff would start to move. Start to move and move and move and move. And it was kind of trippy, actually. And then after a while, I go back to my magic spot, and then, wherever I was, then the same thing would happen. So that's why I kind of researched a lot of these changes. Most Aikido staff is extremely linear. And so, what he said is, well, the kami told me to do that. So that's kind of why I do a lot of the stuff that a lot of people don't. But that's kind of the story behind it. Okay. Anyway, we are just more or less towards the end. Cliff, anything you might want to add?
Nothing I can think of right now, Sensei.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yarrow, anything? Any questions or?
No, not right now. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So most anything. I mean, I'm going to do the movement. I'm going to learn the movement, but boom, boom, it's motion. Something moves. I mean, it goes through the mind, but then the mind's a little too, as Castaneda put it in Don Juan's words, it's like it's filled with 24/7 interior dialogue. So it's very difficult to go boom, boom, and move because we're translating it into words. And that's why it's important. It's like when you're going to do that, but you want to change the dialogue, ideally on a daily basis.
Sensei,
Yes.
one thing I was going to say I forgot is sorry, I got a distraction here. Let me get back to you on that. Sorry, I got something going on here. Sorry.
Okay. But anyway, yeah, it just spirit, right? But I mentioned this a little bit. I'm in street clothes, okay, and there's a picture of Stephen Curry, and he's kind of like very gazing into the distance, and I'm holding a ball, and he's in his shooting position, but he's not holding the ball. And it's real difficult to capture that, but the expression on his face, he's seeing spirit out there because it's in here. And of course, his venue is basketball. Well, what I kind of mentioned was, vision. And then ideally, when we can start to link that up with this, there's motion. In some sense, that moves first, but then it communicates with you. It's not that you bypass the mind, it's just the mind doesn't interfere with that. So when this one guy said, oh, Sensei was more, he used the term soul, I prefer the term spirit there. Spirit over mind, as opposed to mind over body. Okay? Mind can be very controlling. Spirit is spirit. So, that clarifies something because it sure looked like this one very high-ranked Aikido teacher was like the ultimate, right? And then soul or spirit over mind, as opposed to mind over body or mind over matter. Okay, anyway, we're going to end with that today. All right. So we will be doing the Sunday 11:30 to 1 in-person class in Mountain View this weekend. Okay, so thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you, Sensei.
Okay, let's do this. Let's go here. Stop.